My name is Amy Harms, and I'm the Consulting and Premier Services Director at Alfresco. And to give you a little background, there was an Alfresco event in Barcelona in 2007. I believe it was May. I'm not 100% certain about that. But at the time, I was an Alfresco customer. I had a 6-month-old baby girl and a 3-month-old production instance of Alfresco. And that conference at that point in time was a really frustrating episode for me because there was no one to talk to from a business stakeholder point of view about, I've got this production instance, now how do I get people to use it? So fast forward 7 years in time, and here we are at Alfresco Summit Barcelona again, and this time there's a whole business track of sessions for you all to talk about the business side of your projects and how you implement Alfresco. So for my part, this has been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to be here today and to be able to have an opportunity to talk to the business side of Alfresco implementations and at customer sites with partners. And I want to thank you guys for coming. So to that end, the topic for today is how do you get your users to adopt the technology? You know, we know IT like Alfresco, we understand why they like it, but once you've got it, once you've put it in, how do you get your users to take care of it? So just a quick survey. Who here is a new Alfresco customer, just getting started with their Alfresco project? One? Okay. That means everyone else is an existing, been in production a few months or a year or more. Is that about right? 4. Okay, great. And who here is a technical resource at your site, you know? 1, 2. And who here sort of represents the business? Great. That's really good. No, I'm excited to see that. That's really good. I'm impressed that technical resources would come to a track that's really focused on the business side and getting business take-up, so that's great. So let me just go ahead and introduce to you your panel today. We've got Beverley Verster from Trafigura. Beverley, you want to raise your hand? We've also got Filip Lannoye, who's head at CIRB-CIBG. And we've got Etienne, who's at the Verster group. So just a brief rundown, all of these individuals work in the IT side of the house, but have been responsible for implementing the Alfresco project at their organization. They're all at least 2 years into a project. I think, Beverley, you're 2.5 years into your Alfresco, is that right? Almost 3. And Filip and Etienne are almost 4 years in, if I'm not mistaken. So you're talking to a panel who's really got a lot of experience with living with Alfresco in production, and experience with a much newer version of Alfresco than my own, because the version that I went live on was Alfresco 1.2. So without further ado, I'll just sort of line out for you what we're going to do. I'm going to give the microphone to each of the panelists and let them just talk very briefly, about 5 minutes, about what was their user approach to adoption and rollout. And that should take us through to about minute 20 on the agenda. Then we're going to open it up to questions from you all so that you can either ask a question specifically of an individual panelist or of all of the panelists. And I'll moderate those. If there's anything that's a question that's sort of very detailed or more in depth, we can take that offline and I can put you in contact with the panelists afterwards, so we'll manage it that way. And then at the very end, we'll have a little wrap up and just kind of bring home the 3 approaches and perspectives and give that to you in a nice tidy package to take away with you, so to speak. So without further ado, Filip, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you. Well, I'm working for CIRB, which is the public organization which offers IT services for the Brussels capital region in Belgium. We have the chance to touch any domain of IT, you name it. We do infrastructure, we do telco, we do development, we do support, we do quite everything. Our main focus here for the topic today, I would like to refer to a use case which is published on the alfresco.com site. You look for CIRB and you'll come to it. I just focus on that one application. It's in fact an application which was already conceived in 2006, 2007 actually, where there was a business question coming from people wanting to modernize the local authorities. I'm talking about municipalities. The Brussels region is composed of 19 municipalities. They have their council, they have their mayor, their elected people around. And imagine the situation that formerly, where some points need decision from the council, well, the office workers had to prepare a file, had to print annexes, attachments, plans, big files, put them in binders, get them to their responsibles, getting their approvals, before getting the point even on the agenda. So this is a process which is very, very paper-consuming and time-consuming as well. And you imagine the whole load that represents. The big image which always astonishes me until today, which was the case of one of the municipalities which was an early adopter in the project, where they had like 2 guys being paid every time there was a council to copy all papers for all guys for the council. So they took their copies at the entrance, and it were like 600 pages, and they all numbered it by hand. Hello, we are 2013, okay? So now we come with this nice project where we automate all this. And so all these same office workers now use an application which is created on top of Alfresco, let's be honest there. And so they introduce their points. These points go through a workflow, which are validated, and then they come into the council. The council itself is held also on electronic base, and so the secretary is acting the decisions. And according to the kind of issue, the points will return to the asker, or will also be sent through a second application, which is also on top of Alfresco, which we tend to integrate now, to other administrations of the Brussels region. Now, our first pilots were very enthusiastic about this application. And actually, you see also younger people, digital natives as we call them today, taking management positions in these same administrations. And so they say, well, cut the crap and let's do this electronically, and let's do quicker and faster and better, and let's consume way less paper as well. And so one other point where CIRB has a real big benefit today, we are able to federate our customers. We know these customers, we know very well their businesses, we know these people very well. And so we also mentioned that they don't have a real federation amongst them. And so now we are doing this right from our IT perspective. So by discussing about workflows, by discussing about, well, let's try to interact with most of the stakeholders of these different administrations to get like common lanes, like common workflows, and add possibilities to configure according to the different dimensions of the administrations. But this makes they meet one another in our building, and IT becomes a business driver at that moment. This is quite interesting for us as well. And so this same application has become self-selling, and now other administrations are asking us, when are you coming to our municipality here to deploy the same application? And so now we are in a bit of a rush, since we want to upgrade, to use the latest version of Alfresco, to use activity, to integrate it with an ELBA lookalike project, which was presented here earlier. And at the same time, we need to deploy it in the remaining administrations and other local administrations as well. So this is where my role is also quite important. I have 2 guys in my team, service management team. So we are the ITIL guys. We talk SLA, OLA, all the things that annoy the developers, but this is what we do. We ensure, with the help of a lot of people behind, that the applications are robust, that they are performant, they are working, up and running. And what we also do, and that's a real key issue for CIRB, we send these guys right on premise of the customer, of the municipality. So they participate in the analysis of the workflows. They discuss with the different stakeholders. These same stakeholders are also willing to adapt their own structure, their own hierarchy, And we have really municipalities where they had like 120 services, which are now being regrouped into new directions. And actually that are doing it at the same time as discussing about the application. So this is a real big driver. The same service managers are also there for the babysitting, for the early support days. And so they stay on premise to help end users and to be there to tackle the first questions. And they also have a direct link with our development team, of course. So I think this is the main message I could give you here. We really invest in the change management.
Hi. So I'm Beverley from Trafigura. Trafigura is a commodities trading company. Started off about 20 years ago with 6 people, now has 9,500 people in the organization. We do physical commodity trading, so in other words, we buy something, barrel of oil, lump of metal, whatever it is, in one country, actually get the ships transported, probably store it for a while, and then sell it on to somebody else, transporting it to them in many cases as well. So it means there's actually a lot of documentation involved in that process, especially the shipping process. And if you don't have things like certificates of origin, insurance documents, customs documents, bills of lading, all sorts of other documents, you're not going to get your money because people need to know all the facts about that piece of metal or whatever it is. Historically, these documents were stored in various locations, local file shares, in systems, some of our trading systems, and a lot of them in Outlook. Workflow also happened through Outlook, and this was one of our key problems, was how we could centralize all of this, and that's where Alfresco came into the picture. So who are our users? Well, they're anybody and everybody in the organization, because it's everybody from the people doing the contracts to start off, or the traders, I guess, but the contracts really are the first things that get stored in the system. They get stored there by systems. So we've integrated our systems, and the benefit of that is they give us rich metadata on those documents that are generated by the systems, and they also, in most cases, create the folder structures that the users, business users, are going to then store their additional documents in. These documents, so moving on from the contracts, we've got the financing, trade finance, they're storing their letters of credit, things like that. Treasury for the payments, we've got the credit risk guys, we've got compliance, we've got, you know, you can name everybody. Everyone through the whole process is storing various documents, and what's good now is that they're all under a specific trade or under a specific counterparty, all in a location where everyone can find them. Problem though, when we started this whole process, as we said, it was about 3 years ago, we were using Alfresco 3-something share interface. And the very first group that we rolled out to, we were fortunately very cautious, and we first went for the corporate secretaries. So not a key trading area. So they just needed to store group company information. It was a good test group for us because we could try out the product, try it in an area where, you know, everything's not massively time critical and all the rest of it. Working with them, even they were not terribly satisfied, I'm afraid, with our original approach. Problem for them really was using the share interface, which didn't allow drag and drop. It was a typical web-based interface. It was slow. And even the corporate secretary said no. There was no chance of us rolling it out to the rest of the business. A trader, an operator wouldn't be interested. So we did a review of the market, had a look at what other products were out there, found quite a range, to be honest. Eventually went with one, which was Fred, which is the Zenith interface, and basically that's the only interface we use right now. Reasons, it gives us drag and drop. We needed an interface that was user-friendly. I think user-friendliness for us is the key. If we can't give the user something that's familiar, that's friendly, that, you know, they don't need a massive training course or a PhD to use, you can forget it from our point of view. So it looks just like Windows Explorer, drag and drop, file structures, you know, the tree down the left and all of those things, but with the added functionality that Alfresco gives you. So you have your versions that you can look at, you can do searches and metadata and all of those good things. So I think that was our key element there. A few other things, for example, performance. That was another big one for us. If it's too slow, they're not interested. Searching was another one. Very important, really, and it's still something we're working on because we're really not there yet. Everyone says to us, why isn't it like Google? It needs to be like Google, and I think that's something we all need to work on. Alfresco, are you listening? So we needed to be able to give you very quick search results, not hang about for minutes waiting to come back with any results. And also it needs to give you full results and page through those results. Not just give you the first 1,000 and then say, narrow your search down. Because sometimes you do actually need to do a big search and be able to filter through that. You might want to see every document for a specific counterparty for a good legal or other reason. You don't really want to filter it down, narrow it down at that stage. So how am I doing for time? Am I running short yet? I'm all right. I haven't got a watch today, so. Oh, all right. So yeah, as I say, I think those are really the key elements. At the moment, the user uptake's fairly good. I think search is probably the area we've got the most complaints about at the moment, but other than that, they're fairly happy. We're rolling out to a lot more user departments at the moment. We're probably only about halfway through the full rollout, to be honest, because we focused really on the core business and we haven't got around to the subsidiaries yet. This is where we're hitting more of the performance issues. And so one of the elements we're going to be looking at in future is a distributed model to try and, something we're probably going to have to build onto Alfresco so that when the user's sitting in Shanghai, he doesn't have to wait 40 seconds for his document that takes 10 seconds in London. So once again, from a user point of view, it has to be quick and has to be easy, I think is my summary.
Hi, I'm Etienne Jacob. I've worked for FNSL for 15 years. We start some solution with ECM solution, and often we start with financial department with try to transform paper invoice to electronic invoice, and often it doesn't work. So in 2008, we started with Alfresco with the IT department at the beginning, like Kobe, to test it, the solution. Why? Because we have a lot of document about project in the IT department. So to have in one place to share information, Alfresco will be a good point for that. Often we use email, so we send an email for 1 people, 2 people, and in the project you have more and more people are working on the same project, but they have not received the first email, so you have no other information. With Alfresco, we can create separate project and put all information inside, and we don't share email with a lot of attachment, but just a link to the project. So we start like this with the IT department, and we grow step by step with the users, and often the project is not IT project limited, it's for other departments. So they start to learn how it works and want to do the same. And the example is for the guy from the resource human who sent an email with an attachment to 300 people in the company about the new rules for the traveling, and he sent an email with the attachment. And I asked him, why you don't use Alfresco? Why? He said to me, do you check your email? Are you sure there is not a mistake inside or something like that? Yeah, no, it's not a problem. If you have a problem in your attachment, for example, a sentence error or a number is not correct, what you do? You say nothing, you keep it for you, and you say maybe nobody see it, or you send back a new email. In the 2 cases, it's not professional way to work. If you use Alfresco, you send a link. Even if nobody see your mistake, it's not a problem. If somebody see it, you go to Alfresco, change it, check out, check in, it's done, and maybe there is only 1 people see your error. Today, you use Alfresco like this because you feel it, yeah, there is a good value to use Alfresco. And also for Exchange Manager, to have the email go down because it's just link, it's not a big attachment, and 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 email sent just inside the company. We keep attachment outside, but for inside, Alfresco is very good. we start in 2008, so we use Alfresco Explorer, so it's not so nice as share, and we are looking for to move from Alfresco Explorer to share. But we are waiting. Why? Because we are managing also the security. It's also a good point with Alfresco. That's at the beginning when you have network drive and people want to create a project for marketing department or research department, they ask to the IT department to create a specific groups with all these people is working on this project. But if there is one more guy in this project, we need to ask to the IT department to add the people in the group. These people need to log off, log on to have the right access to the right folder. With Alfresco, it's not IT who manage that. It's the project in chief in Alfresco. Go check administration. It's very easy to use even in Alfresco Explorer. And go there, change, add people, move, add more power to the user. And on the end, we have no demand like this with the IT department. It's the people who manage ourselves the system. It's one reason we don't move to Alfresco share for this moment, because the part of the user management is not so deep management that you have in Alfresco Explorer. So these two cases, I think it's good to use Alfresco.
Great, thanks for that, guys. So just to give you a quick recap, and I apologize, if you saw me on my phone, I was trying to find my notes without going to my laptop and changing the PowerPoint slide. So just a quick recap in, fast, quick and dirty terms, as it were. So Etienne, the use cases there, they're kind of using Alfresco out of the box. They're doing document management and workflow security. And so those are the big, the high-level terms that they're using it for. And their user adoption approach has been slowly phased. They've been targeting strategic groups inside the organization who needed to use Alfresco first and going after them as individual departments. So it wasn't a blanket approach of a corporate rollout so much as a targeted, slow, phased approach. And again, you have the luxury of that, when you've got a production environment that's 4 years old, as it were. In terms of Beverley, the use cases there were a starting use case with the internal secretaries team, so sort of the back office internal, not the frontline business groups, but then moving quite quickly onto those groups. So that approach there was more of a blanket approach after an initial targeted approach at users that they trusted a great deal to tell them, was it quick and easy and would it work? And then for Filip, I guess the basic use case for you guys is really a share collaboration site, because they're working with 19 other municipalities where they're serving up, they're offering a central IT service to 19 different organizations, and they're selling it on the basis of share collaboration and a custom app on top with for workflow. And again, that rollout, because his user base was multiple organizations, not just multiple departments, was a phased, targeted approach of, we have this, come use it, and have this service. So that's a quick summary and an introduction from the panelists. And I want to open it up for questions now. We do have some sort of pre-canned questions that we took from people offline ahead of time, but so I can lead with those, or if there are any questions from the room, if you'd like to direct them now. We've got Taz in the back who's going to come around with the mic, so not because we won't be able to hear you, but because we want to make sure the recording captures your questions. We've got one here, great.
Okay, my name is Daniel. I'm working for a manufacturer. We produce railers, sensors. And yeah, I'm currently having the fun of implementing Alfresco, mainly for DMS, data management system, workflow system, and yeah, of a bit of intranet and collaboration. So Did you guys, how did you do the customer education, or how much time did you spend for that? An hour, a day? I am currently thinking about to doing like in-software tutorials to explain the different parts. Would that be a good idea?
Who wants to go? Who would like it?
There's two aspects that I'd like to touch on there. The one is that we didn't just give people a repository and say, there, help yourselves. So it's not like Outlook tended to be, or public folders, shared drives tended to be. We actually did business analysis of every area before we rolled out. So we did actually take quite a phased approach. And for each of those business areas, we analyzed what documents they used, who else they sent those documents to, in how they were used, in other words. We then agreed very fixed folder structures with them and with any related business areas who were going to be using those documents. So they didn't just keep mailing them to those business areas, so that everyone had access. Those who needed write access had it. Those who had read access needed it, had it. And so they knew where to find those documents. So in the case of a contract, for argument's sake, contracts admin create it, they save it, and finance, treasury, etc. all know where to find it when they need it. So there's a user education component in the beginning to understand the folder structures. The actual training after that, I mean, obviously there's a UAT phase when obviously your key super users really are testing the system, are happy, and obviously they communicate with their teams. But the actual training was minimal because of the user interface being very easy to use. We normally do a half-hour session. Every time we roll out to a new area with the whole team, we do a half-hour session, which is really just an introduction to the user interface, and we give them a one-pager which explains the folder structure and some key usability features. What we are busy doing at the moment, in addition, is generating some training material that they can just click on online. If they do want to refresh or they get new users, they need to train, etc. But that, again, is just it's like a little video thing, really. That's all from our point of view.
In our company, when we start the project, we create training for the IT department, and after that we start with a presentation, and this presentation growing step by step because we had some new feature in Alfresco. But as she tells, we don't give access to Alfresco without any explication. For example, for assign security, we don't want that the people assign security on the file. They need at least on the folder. There is some example like that. We can force or need to make some customization inside Alfresco. We don't want to do that. We want to be near than the out of the box. So if a department wants to use Alfresco, we make a training for all people. But yeah, there is moving in the company. So when a new guy arrives in the company, we have a special training for them. It's nearly 2 hours. We have a presentation. This presentation is on Alfresco. So we start to show is go to Alfresco. There is IT department public. There is forms, and there is Alfresco, and you can find the last version of the presentation, and you learn like this. I think it's the best way to have a social contact and explain how to use it. And after that, when you come back to this office, we send an email with the link to the file and the link to the application. And often, when there's a new version, we send also news about that. And we start also a share, Alfresco share for the IT, so everything is there now. So it's the way. You need to be with the user at the beginning. After, it's easy because one thing is good also with Alfresco that you see only what you can get at this read, but it's not like a share on a network. You have 30,000 of directory and error, no access. This one I can't. And why I have access to this one? Because maybe I can work with that. Now, with Alfresco, we have only see what we can see. So there is no frustrating people that say, I want to access this. You have no idea this exists. So, yeah, you need to follow a little bit the users at the beginning.
So, do you want me to add something? Everything was told. No, it's clear. You need to have some form of proximity with your users. Just putting the tool there and say, good luck with it, doesn't work. We all know that. For CIRB, our approach is multiple. So I talked about the key users we have, which are already involved during analysis. These are not necessarily your end users. Part of the end users are our main business users, which are the mayor and the members of the council. So for these people, we do demos, and we do also presentations or even one-on-ones with them. And then my service managers, they go on premise, they sit down with the key users, they sit down in the different departments, and they will be there for the composition of the first council. And so to ensure to be there, to hear anything, to see if everything runs smoothly. This doesn't solve your issue for new incoming office workers, since you need to train these people as well. So there is training material. We provide general trainings, since there is a core form of the application, if you want, which is quite generic. And we also have the concept of user clubs. So this is even this kind of meeting space where there's an open discussion with the actual customers, actual organizations using the application. And at the same time, it's also an occasion for us to explain where we want to go and to see what lives and do to feel the application.
Hi, my name is Maret. I work for University of Westminster. We are using Alfresco already, but I was wondering how many users do you have, and how many sites you have had to create for your users, and do you find that now that you're using the system, people are requesting more sites, or have you been able to kind of keep up within the site amount of sites that you decided in the beginning?
Yeah, quite interesting. The platform I'm talking about, it's hiding Alfresco under the hood, if you want. But I'm talking about 2,900 concurrent users a day on a system, on a platform which is hosted on 7 production servers. So there is this capacity which is down. Now, outside this application, we also host the standard out-of-the-box Alfresco share for some organizations who simply want to have an exchange space of big files or whatever you want. And without moderation, this goes everywhere. So this is really difficult to manage. And as long as you don't have someone who's really moderating this kind of sites, you will lose control on it. We did this experience as well. So where we provided this kind of site, and we talked with some business representatives, which were telling us, well, how many documents are you going to share? Well, I don't know, 200, 300? Yeah, but a month, a year? Actually, I don't know. So then you start with some kind of a setup, with a basic organization, with a manager, with contributors, with consumers. We train these people. We gave them a one-day training. All these people were very happy, very nice. They got a coffee at the training. Well, quite interesting. And then they asked, and what document I'm going to put in that? Yeah, that you have to see with your chiefs, with your organization. So there is this difficulty to have this business driver behind, and to have these business rules defined, and to have a real owner in the background. The rest is pure IT, and then you make it available. Okay?
Okay, very short answer from my side. We don't use sites at all. We have about 2,000 users, and we have 1 instance at this point. We're putting together a second instance for our subsidiaries.
For my part, we have 700 users, and we still on Alfresco Explorer, so you have no share usage. So, or some space, some site created, but we have not migrate from Alfresco Explorer to share, and it's still a big question for us how we are going to do that.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Mark Houth from Alfresco. I just had a question about the actual, I guess, the adoption phase. Did you have any issues with the users, and specifically stopping them if you're relapsing and going back to their old ways? It's one thing if you go from one content management system to another and you close the door and say it's a read-only. But if you're going from, Beverley, you said about the whole go from Outlook, you can't stop them from using their email, so whether they go back to using the old processes. I was wondering whether you've already faced those issues, any of you, and how you kind of overcame it.
The first time we punished them. The second time we beat them. The third time we fired them. No, in our specific case, we pay particular attention to this issue. A lot of organizations we are talking about, in my case, didn't use this kind of application in the background. They didn't use any IT workflows. They didn't really use document management systems. So this topic is new for them. This way of working is new for them. And so this is the chance we have, I think.
I think the question is quite relevant to us because although the people weren't using another document management system, as you mentioned, Outlook, for example, they were using public folders extensively, as well as file servers. The approach we've generally taken is when we, I think I mentioned in an earlier presentation, we didn't generally migrate documents. We actually went from point forward, simply because we didn't want to waste a whole lot of time and effort trying to migrate all the historic documents, and over time they will be retired anyway. So what we did from the date that we'd chosen is in some cases we switched over completely, switched over the whole user group, made that folder or public folder or file share, whatever it is, read-only, so they couldn't save anything there anymore, and they had to save it in Alfresco. That was point one. In some cases where it was a bit harder to do that, we've actually given them a month parallel run overlap. So we've given them a month to get used to the new system, come up with any issues, complaints, whatever, give us time to resolve them, to make sure the training's right, and then we've done that hard cutover where they can't save anything. We've also had a lot of support from the management, so as part of this whole business analysis process that we spoke about, it's very important to get the management buy-in, because then they do help us police their business areas, you know, making sure that people don't do the wrong thing. There are a few other functions that people have actually asked us for subsequently because of people starting to relapse. And also just to make sure that they use the system correctly. And that is what you do find people doing. One of the things we found a lot in the Outlook world as well as in the file share world, people would create personal folders in there. You know, it'll be Bev's folder, which really isn't very useful for a corporate, because you want things to be stored by trade, by counterparty, by something recognizable. And we've seen them starting to relapse in that respect in Alfresco. Every now and then you'll find a person's name, and if I spot it or anybody spots it, they immediately raise it up to the manager. What's this person's name doing there? They should never be there. And what's happening there really is, as I say, it's really a matter of policing and sort of re-education all the time. That's really our biggest issue, not people going back to what they used to use because they can't, but it's the relapse to not using the corporate structures we've agreed. And one of the features, for example, the business have now asked us for is they want manager-only folder create. So their teams can't create their own folders. So the managers will decide what those folders are, or the systems will, and that's something that we're hoping to implement.
In our case, I think we have not big issue around that. The training is a good thing on the beginning. For example, the personal folder is not permitted in the company because it's a personal folder. You just manage your own documents, so you can keep it on the shared drive. You use Alfresco when you want to share information. The second point that we check not each day, but often that what is created on the system, and check if there's no people who try to copy everything in one way. We deleted the functionality CFS, so we can access like Explorer windows and make a copy. So because at the beginning, people want to just take all in the shared drive and move to Alfresco, and no, it's not correct. You need to put in Alfresco document you want archiving, yeah, maybe, but it's for document alive. You use Alfresco. So yeah, you follow the people, you follow what they've done on Alfresco. You are administrator, so you can. But yes, we have not big issue around that, and obviously it's still like this for a long time.
Great. Well, that's all we have time for questions for, because I'm quite sorry. Oh, come grab us afterwards, because I'm quite keen that you guys not miss the next session, and I don't want to get in trouble with Jeff Potts, I'll be honest. But I just want to leave you with kind of 4 main points, which you may not have, while you were listening to the answers, pulled them together. But if you talk to your Alfresco partner or another SI, someone who's helping you implement ECM, who's a real ECM expert, the 4 strands of user adoption that you heard today that I want you to take home with you are senior stakeholder buy-in. Each of these use cases and each of these customers are talking about the fact that they had senior stakeholder buy-in, not just to purchase a solution, but for the user adoption, and that's really important. The second thing that you heard a lot about, whether you realized it or not, was there was a content migration strategy at play. So there was a decision made about what content to move across and when to move it across, and when to decommission or turn off access to older systems or other repositories. The third thing was that there was a definite training emphasis, and thank you for the question that elicited that. They all had a training program, whether it was something that they outsourced or wrote internally, or was very informal and people-based one-to-one, or was a formal presentation. There was a definite training work stream in their project to make sure that user adoption succeeded, and that's really important. It's easy to get into your IT project, get to go live, and then walk away, and then wonder why users don't use it. So that's the third thing that's really important. And the fourth one is this idea that there was a definite approach to user adoption. There was some forward thinking before go live about how are we going to make sure that users adopt it? And that would be the single most important lesson I want you all to take away is if you want any project, not just your Alfresco or your ECM project to succeed, you really have to give some thought before day one, go live, of your in-production system. You really have to give some thought about how you're going to target and roll out and train and support and monitor, that user adoption and those users in the system. So thank you very much for coming today. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your Alfresco experience with us, and enjoy your Alfresco event.